Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Happy Friday. Welcome back to Partnership for Profits. I'm back for the third time today. We've been podcasting like crazy today. It's a big podcast Friday here, but I've got an awesome guest this afternoon. I've got Nicholas Passalacqua, who is the powerhouse trial lawyer behind Passalacqua and Associates up in upstate New York. We're going to get into his practice and how he's helping people out and a little bit of his story. And Nick, I really appreciate you giving me some time today. Is it Nick or Nicholas? What do you prefer?
Nick,
It's Nick,
Nick
right?
is fine. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you here, and happy Friday to you. I hope you're having a good week and ready to have a good weekend. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I want to get into your background and your story and kind of how you got into this area of law. Would you say you're a trial lawyer? Is that how you would describe yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when did it kind of click for you that you knew you wanted to be a trial lawyer?
I've always been argumentative by nature, and kind of the whole impetus for me to even think about pursuing a career in law was really from my teachers, because I would always just like playfully argue with them about why I didn't have my homework or why I should not have to do this or that. And
Right.
year after year, they would say, you should be a lawyer. You're going to be a lawyer. And the idea just kind of sank in, and it kind of worked. I always loved to argue, hated to be wrong. So it kind of flowed with my personality, I guess.
That makes sense for trial law for sure. Were you a debater? Were you on the debate team?
No, so I joined the high school mock trial team as soon as I got to high school. And that was where I kind of developed a passion for trial presentation, and that sort of thing.
What does that look like? When in my high school days, we didn't have a mock trial team. We had a debate team, but there was no mock trial team. What does that look like when you're a teenager and you're stepping into that? Talk to me a little bit about mock trials and how that looks and how that works. You go to the bar association and do this stuff, or where do you do this?
No, so in New York State, they have a whole high school level mock trial, like statewide program, and the state issues like they issue a fake case to every high school that participates with a fake fact pattern, fake statements, limited evidence, and then they issue rules, so it's kind of closes the scope of what you can use and say. And then you put together teams in high school, and you have, I think, 3 attorneys and then 3 witnesses for each side. And usually, like, the witnesses on one side will be the attorneys on the other side, because you kind of go to the competitions and, like, you're plaintiff, you're defense, and you just kind of have to jump in. So that's kind of how that is structured.
Cool. So like, if you say it's a competition, do you win or?
Yeah, they actually like crown a winner per county or region, and then they can go on and win like the state tournament.
That's awesome. Did you win the state tournament?
No, we did not.
That's cool though, man. So that's kind of the impetus then for you to continue with that as something that you enjoyed and you felt like you were good at. So, and it was like almost like a calling, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about the so you going from mock trials to law school to real trials. That's a big leap, right? From being in a mock trial to the real thing. What's the transition like from the first time you walked into a real courtroom as a trial lawyer?
It's always nerve-wracking, especially in the beginning before you've had enough of the experience that you're used to it. But doing the kind of trial preparation and then presentation, even in the mock setting, we did it in college. I founded the program at Sacred Heart University because I found out there was a collegiate level, kind of like there was at the high school level nationwide. Right. So I founded a program there, and we went to 2 regional tournaments. I did mock trial in law school, and actually during law school, while interning at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office in Detroit, Michigan has a court rule that allows law students to get on the record in live court proceedings with the permission of the judge. So I actually had 2 jury trials the summer before my 3rd year in law school.
You were trying the case?
Yeah. In Inkster, Michigan, and in Livonia. Yeah.
That's ultimate prep.
Yeah, it was cool.
I imagine that's way better than what you can get. I mean, the classroom stuff's important, but there's no replacing being on the field, right?
Yeah. I mean, I must have done
all day
dozens
long
of like
in
felony
the
exams, and yeah, it was very uh relevant and worthwhile real world experience in courtroom.
Is that common in across the country, or is that something just only in certain places?
It's different state by state. Some states like that just have a court rule. If you ask permission and you're under the supervision of an attorney, as long as the judge says yes, you're good. New York allows for it. They call it a practice order. You have to like apply to the appellate division here, and it's only in certain circumstances. And typically, you have to be working for like a public interest organization, a public defender's office, a DA's office, and you'll get a practice order. Typically, only when you're waiting to get sworn in. I haven't seen it, for law students.
I talk to lawyers all the time, and I don't get most of the attorneys we talk to are not doing a lot of trial work, right? They're settling a lot of cases. You do PI, right? But you also do criminal defense. You
Correct.
both, yeah. So, we work with a lot of personal injury lawyers, and they're not, and some of them do go to trial. Obviously, they go to trial from time to time, but they're not doing it, on the reg. So it's cool to kind of talk to somebody who's got that kind of different perspective on that side of things. So let's talk about your style in the courtroom.
Good.
Every great trial lawyer has their own style. Talk to me about how you kind of develop yours, and what makes what's unique about your approach in the courtroom.
Um, the one thing I pride myself on is in pretty much every setting is I refuse to go into a courtroom anything less than the most prepared person in the room.
Sure.
And that a lot of people say it. In practice, you don't see it quite as much.
Right.
But that's something I think that's imperative. But I listen a lot. A lot of trial lawyers, and there's a lot of great trial lawyers that, pre-script out a lot of stuff, which is fine. I have found a lot of my success in listening actively and using what people are giving you in trial. Being able to think on your feet, paying attention to what's happening on direct or what have you, um, has been very helpful to me. And so I typically come in with, especially for cross exams, I'll come in with a script of stuff I know I need to get out.
Right.
And this is maybe a little bit more relevant in the criminal context,
Sure.
where you don't get the opportunity, at least in New York, to depose any of the witnesses. And so I've always told people, like in our firm, we've kind of started developing what we call the trial lawyer development program within our firm, because as you're saying, so few attorneys now have relevant or sufficient trial experience.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that they're learning how to try cases up to our standards.
So I want to make sure I don't want to put the wrong word out here, but it sounds like you're coming in super prepared. You know what you're going to go with, but you've developed the ability to kind of maybe adjust based on what you're hearing, listening to what the witnesses are giving, on their side of the stand, and then on cross you can kind of adjust based off what you heard. Is that what you're doing a lot?
Yeah, and in my experience, not speaking about myself,
Yeah.
but from other attorneys that I look up to, the greatest trial lawyers are ones that do that listen, that can think on their feet, that can pivot in the midst of a trial. There's good trial attorneys that have everything scripted. I doubt there's ones that would be considered great that can't think on their feet and pivot in the midst of a trial, because that's what you need. I mean, nothing goes down as anticipated in any trial. Like I
Yeah.
said, a little more so in civil, because you've got such a runway. The rules are different. You get
Right.
so much more disclosures and opportunity to question witnesses. You know a lot of what's coming out and from who. In the criminal context, like I've told people, you want to test a trial lawyer. In my opinion, doing both regularly, both PI trials and hearings and criminal,
Yeah.
it's much harder to cross-examine a DNA expert that you don't get to talk to. You get to read a 2-page report and look
Right.
at their CV before trial, compared to I don't care, the most sophisticated of neurologists or what have you, that you've had to do depositions. You've
Right.
got depositions from your colleagues. You've looked at all their published literature, right? It's a lot more difficult doing the DNA expert, in my opinion, than it is with someone who's given you everything and you have a finite universe to research, and you know where they're going with things and what they're going to say because you've asked them 3 times.
It's fascinating to hear you say it and that put it in that talking about the terms of being an active listener and using that to kind of enhance how you're going to, put your case, get your case across. I come from an acting background. All of us in our company, we come from a film production and live production background. And as an actor, people will always ask me, they'll see something I've done and they'll say, how do you come across so natural? How do you do that? And I tell them, like, the first step in acting is most of acting is listening and reacting, is actively listening to what your scene partner is giving to you and then reacting like a human being would really react based off what they're giving back to you. It's really interesting to hear that, those skills really apply. Not that you're acting, because clearly you're this is real life, what you're doing.
Right. But guess what? We're storytellers. We're telling a story. And also, in my opinion, if you can't engage the jury, you might have phenomenal legal arguments,
but if they don't like you,
but if you're standing there at the podium talking in a monotone way like this, by sentence 3, they're asleep. So I'm very dynamic in trial. Like, I will raise my voice and use the courtroom.
You move a lot.
What's that?
You move a lot? Are you moving
I use the courtroom to my advantage. Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned acting, because actually the trial program that I went through at Michigan State University, it was endowed by Jeffrey Feiger, who was Dr. Kevorkian's defense attorney for all but his last trial. And he required an acting class as part of the required curriculum for the trial program.
I think it's a huge skill to have in whether you're a lawyer or whether you're anything. Like, we encourage a lot of our clients that we work with in our business. We do video production and stuff like that with law firms and other businesses, and we encourage the people that we're working, because they're going to be on camera. We tell them, hey, go take an improv class. You're going to pull so much from that. Taking an improv class about thinking on your feet, being comfortable in your own skin, and being able to kind of roll with the punches and get out of your shell, all that stuff, it comes in. It's so valuable. So that's really cool. So the Michigan State, they require that program requires an acting class.
Yeah.
So did you just take one, or did you keep going?
No, it was just the one they have in the program, but it was definitely helpful for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just cool to hear you talk about active listening and responding, because it's such a huge thing in the acting world as well. If you want to be a good actor, you have to be a good listener, and you got to be able to adjust, because they might give you something you're not expecting, and you got to keep rolling with it. So, very cool. So, let's talk a little bit. We sort of got into this, what we were talking about as far as, listening and active listening and making sure the jury is into what you're giving, is getting that energy back from the jury. I'm sure you can feel that, just like if you're performing with an audience, you feel the energy from an audience if they're into what you're doing. What are some misconceptions that people have about what it takes to persuade a jury in a trial?
I think one major misconception of trials in general is, which is not unreasonable, is people don't understand the rules of evidence. Even clients are like, oh, but you have this. I'm like, just because I have it in no way means I am just automatically able to use that in trial.
Right.
And sometimes that's hard for people and clients to understand. They think that we've got this very valuable piece of evidence, which otherwise may be, but based on the format it's in, or how it was obtained, or where it was located, or what have you, there are hurdles to getting that bit of evidence into the trial, which is part of the skill set of a trial lawyer, is getting creative with those arguments as well. But sometimes there's just no working around it, and you have to try and explain, like, I know you think this is super valuable, and I don't necessarily disagree. There's a very big question mark as to whether or not we're able to actually use this in a trial, though.
Right. So understanding the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think TV over glamorizes the speed at which the legal system moves in any particular context.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, especially criminal trials, right? They're months down the road before.
Oh, months or years. I mean, the last murder trial I had was like 18 months after it occurred.
Okay. So and that's all prep time in between. That's your time to kind of prep the case.
It's all like negotiations, reviewing of the discovery, trying to work out a reasonable disposition that everybody's okay with, if you can. And then it's motion practice, hearings, and then usually, depending on the congestion of the county you're in or what have you, at least in New York, you're out several more months, or 8 more months, depending on how many trials they've got backed up.
I think people have the same misconception about personal injury cases too. I think that
For sure.
they take a lot longer than you think. They might take years to come to a settlement that everybody can agree on.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about. I want to know. So when you came out of law school, when did you start your practice? When did you start your practice? Your firm?
2013.
2013. Okay,
Yep.
so going on, I guess 13 years. Congratulations.
Yep.
Awesome to have your firm going for that long. Did you start out just strictly criminal defense, start out just PI, or did you start out with both of those areas that you were working in?
I started out kind of a little more general. When I got out of law school, I joined what would be considered a larger firm in this general Utica area. I think I was attorney 6 or 7.
Okay.
And they did corporate bank work, closings, bankruptcies. One of the partners did high-end divorces and such. And I went in saying, look, I want to try cases. I want to get in the courtroom. They said, great. 2.5 years later, I had 1 trial and 1 hearing.
Wow.
And didn't like much of what I was doing. So I left there after Christmas 2012, before New Year's of 2013. And then by May, kind of just hung a shingle. And I was taking assignments. I was doing criminal. I was doing family. I was starting to do some estate planning work. I was doing real estate work. At that point, I was doing whatever I had to do to pay the bills.
Are you you're still actively trying cases? Because I know it's your firm. Are there other attorneys in the firm, or is it just you? Or
yes, we just, between looking back a couple of months and looking forward till January, we were onboarding about 5 new attorneys.
That's awesome. Are you still actively trying cases?
Yeah. Luckily, once we fill some of the gaps we have and add some positions to our team, things will settle back down, and I'll get to cherry pick a little more like I have the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I've been thrown into kind of a little bit more hands-on in some of the case coverage, but that's what I like, and that's why I ended up scaling my firm. For 3.5 years, I didn't have a single employee.
It was just you, not even a paralegal.
Nothing.
Okay.
And had started getting a little backlog of work, and just thought, okay, got to figure this out. There's a legal secretary that had just left the public defender's office that I knew, and said, hey, you want to work for me even a few days a week, just help me with some of this stuff, and the backlog of work was gone in like the first week. And
Sure.
I learned to dictate. So I'd drive to night courts and I dictate 3 letters, and she'd have them on my desk in the morning. And that was like the light bulb moment. I was like, oh man, I just need to hire people to do all the shit I don't want to do. Got it.
It's so funny how those realizations happen, man. Yeah. So you've scaled since then. And
yeah. So by New Year's, we should be, I don't know, like I think a total team of 16.
That's awesome. Congratulations, man. That's what you want for sure with your own firm. And then if you want to keep trying cases, to be able to kind of pick the ones that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that you are still doing criminal defense after that many years. I feel like it's a super important part of the legal system to have people who we're all entitled to a defense. I think that defense lawyers sometimes get a bad rap. Criminal defense lawyers get a bad rap because, oh yeah, certainly this guy's guilty. Well, maybe he's not. And
Right.
Shouldn't he have someone? Shouldn't this person have someone on their side to kind of, obviously, to get that representation? It's a super important part of being in America. Kudos to you for being.
No, I don't disagree. We do deal with that sometimes. My take on it is, honestly, we're more so defending the system than the person.
Okay.
Right. And this is, to me, the most important part of the legal system. Like, look, people would get upset if the law changed and you could no longer sue because you stubbed your toe in a grocery store and broke your toe. Right.
Right.
But life would go on. If we all of a sudden start finding people guilty upon accusation, we're really no further along than the Spanish Inquisition.
Right.
And so, like you said, whether they did or didn't do it is not my concern. My concern is, do the people have enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did? If so, great. I'm just ensuring the system works. If I get them acquitted, don't blame me. The system is working.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. I just like I people that I know that don't do work in the field that I work in, when I tell them I work with lawyers and they roll their eyes. I'm like, oh God, you work with lawyers, and I'm like, whoa, slow your roll. Lawyers are great. You don't talk to them enough. They're amazing people. They're super smart. They listen to other people's advice. Like if they're running their business and someone comes to them with business advice, they take the advice and they listen. You guys listen to it, and you lawyers, I feel like are the best people to say I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and to be
Yeah.
able to take that information in and apply it. And I don't know what it is, but I find that attorneys do that better than anybody else. We do marketing, like I said. So if we got an attorney who wants to up their game in their marketing or on their social media or whatever it is, and they come to us and they hire us, they listen and they put the stuff into play, and the results happen. There are other people that we work with in other industries. They come in with the idea of, I know everything, I know what's best.
Mhm.
You're going to tell me what to do, but I'm still going to do it the way that I think I'm going to do it, even though I'm paying you
Yeah,
to help
right,
me
right.
do this.
I'm paying you with the hopes you tell me what I already think I know.
Exactly. Just I'm paying you to justify my
Yeah.
opinion on things. But I find that attorneys, you guys don't. That's not how you guys think. And I love that about attorneys. So I have deep respect for what you guys do, and the fact that whether you're a personal injury lawyer, or you're doing criminal defense, or you're doing estate planning, or whatever it is, everything that you guys do are to help people, and to put people in a better situation. And so I try to defend you guys as much as I can when I
I
when I tell
appreciate it.
people, yeah, man, I got the lawyers' backs. Yeah, and I don't get to talk to a lot of criminal defense lawyers, so I'm super excited for us to kind of have this conversation and get into that a little bit. So talk to me a little bit about company culture. So you talked about scaling, and you said you're 16. Is that where you're at right now?
We're approaching that. Yeah, once we get a couple more people on board that just haven't hit their start dates yet. Yeah, we'll be. I think we're at 12 or 13 now.
So what kind of culture have you developed at the firm, and how is that helping to kind of keep your standards at the level that you want them to be at?
Yeah, culture's always been super important to me. I've personally handpicked every person we've ever hired here. Not saying that I've always made the right the right call, but I've always tried to hire around culture, because for me, and I've spoken to other law firm owners on the topic of firm culture. Um, if you break it down to a very very basic understanding of work culture, I need two things. I need people to at least like what they're doing, and I need them to at least like who they're doing it with,
That's pretty
right?
simple. I like it.
Attention to detail, work ethic, those are two things no one should ever try and teach because it won't work, right? So I won't try to train for those two things. You either have those two things when you come in the door or you're not coming in the door.
I agree.
But for me, if you have those two things, it works. If you don't have either one, it doesn't. Because if someone is here, they like who they work with, but they don't really like what they do, they're going to be wandering around, chit chatting, pulling people away from the work they're supposed to be doing. So, becoming a productivity distraction.
A productivity leech.
Yeah, but if they like what they're doing, but don't really care for the people they're doing it with, they're going to sit in their office and crank, and they might be a good workhorse for you, but they're not going to contribute to or benefit from the culture of the office,
So you
and
make that pretty clear when people
there'll
come
always
in.
be a disconnect there.
Is that something you try to make clear from the jump when new folks come on the team?
Oh, for sure. Part of our hiring process is once you're in the final stages, we bring you in and then we let the team meet you
Nice.
and kind of perform their own little Q&A and just feel you out for cultural fit.
I love that. I love that. I think more companies need to do, like, having a hiring manager is great, and going through the interview process is great, but involving the other people that they're going to be working with every day to make sure they fit together. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
like listen, if I think they're this person and I wouldn't become best friends, that's okay. I'm more concerned with the paralegals saying, yeah, I can work with this person because they're the ones working, day in, day out, all day with directly with that person, typically, whatever, depending on the role we're hiring for. If we're hiring for an attorney, you know, um, that's important.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Love that. Love that philosophy. I think that's more businesses need to think about things in those terms. The idea of having the team come in, I'm sure other people are doing that, but that's good advice for any business owner. Is
Yeah, man. And for me, we spend so much time with these people.
yeah, as much or if not more time than you spend with your family.
Right. And
Yeah,
so for me, I need to be enjoying who I'm around and what I'm doing, or I'm likely not doing it.
or you're
Early
not
on when
doing
I
it well.
started
Yeah.
my practice, hired my first assistant February of 17, my first associate July of 17, second support staffer October of 17, and hired another attorney to start January of 18. November 14th of 2017, my 7-week-old daughter diagnosed with cancer.
Oh wow.
So I'm living in the hospital,
Sure.
and had to delegate, but I had to trust my staff. So and that was one of those moments that put everything in perspective, right? Because I was living in the hospital. I was with my now ex-wife, but wife at the time, and other 2 kids that we were juggling. you know I would work a couple hours, go home, change, drive an hour to the hospital, stay there till 3 in the morning so mom could sleep and shower and eat,
Right.
come drive an hour back, sleep 4 to 7, rinse and repeat for about 45 days. I lost about 25 pounds. Long story short, my daughter's just turned 8. She's doing
Oh, that's great.
wonderful, making me lose what's left of my hair. But it was one of those moments that, wait a minute, like, if I'm going to be taken away from these people that I love and care about and want to have these memories with and stuff, it better be worth it. It better be worth my time and effort. But I also better enjoy those other people that I'm spending all this time with, and be enjoying what I'm doing.
Yep, I have been there. It wasn't cancer, but I spent a couple of weeks in the hospital with my kid a few years ago, and my the company that I still work for today, I still work here. They gave me that grace to kind of be like, yeah, you go take care of your family. So you having gone through that, I'm sure you have that perspective. You've got employees who have to deal with something
Oh,
like
for
that.
sure.
Yeah,
And
go.
things have happened, and I'm like, nope, it's family. Everybody knows here that my perspective is family first.
Love that. Love that. So Nick, let's circle back. At the beginning of this conversation, we talked about mock trial, which is very cool to talk about. Let's talk about the next generation of trial lawyers, because I think I've read in a few places that there's not as many attorneys coming out of law school to do trial work.
Right.
Like the numbers are I mean, it's not drastic, but there's just not as many who want to come out and do trial work. So let's for the next generation of trial lawyers that are out there, maybe someone who's doing mock trials right now in New York or wherever they might be. What's one piece of advice you would give to those younger folks who are thinking about getting into the world of trial law?
Keep doing it. It's very easy to get sidetracked into a practice area or a firm that doesn't, or even firms that are personal injury firms that haven't tried a case in 6 years.
Yeah, they're either
And there's
referring.
nothing wrong with that if you're getting proper results. But I'm going to guess that if you haven't been to trial in 6 years, you're probably cutting some people short. But just because you're a personal injury lawyer doesn't mean you're risk averse. You know what I mean? It's definitely, you have to have a higher risk tolerance, no doubt. Um, but I think those with the highest risk tolerance, but also an understanding of the work, are who you're seeing push that envelope and get these sizable results for their clients.
So keep
but
going.
but definitely keep doing it, keep developing. But I would also be careful of who you're listening to. you know like, you're getting trial advice from who? A transactional lawyer? You may want to just take that with a grain of salt, right? You're getting advice from a seasoned trial attorney with 50, 80 trials under their belt in their career. That's someone you should probably listen to if they've done it successfully, because they know how to work a courtroom, they know how to prepare a case for trial. And watch trials if you have an opportunity to. If you're in a public interest office, even if you're not on trial but your colleague is, go watch,
Yeah,
because you might know how they try cases. But let's say you're at the DA's office, but you're going to see a bunch of different defense attorneys come up, and they're going to have a lot of different styles, some that you might like, some that you might not, some that you could say, well, I can never pull that off. But you'll see also the reaction of the jury, right? You see how it plays in the room. You see how they act when they're not the center of attention, which I think is very, very overlooked. We train all of our lawyers here. You step into a courtroom when there's a jury there, from the moment the jurors step into the room, you have to act as though there are eyes on you at all times. So we always train our lawyers, look, you stay actively engaged in trial. You're taking notes, you're watching the witness, even if you know what they're going to say, even if you don't care, even if you know you have no questions for this witness. Because if I was a juror and I really don't want to be here and I look over and you're not paying attention as the attorney, I'm going to be annoyed with you.
For sure.
And if I'm annoyed with you, that's points against your client.
100%. That's so, man, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that's another thing that we tell people in the acting world, especially if you're doing live theater, is if you're on stage, you're acting. Whether you go 15 minutes without speaking, if you're on stage, someone is looking at you. And
Right.
If you're off in space and you're not zoned in on the scene that you're in, the audience is going to see that and they're going to disengage. So it's just so funny that this corollary.
Because that's always a thing. That's what we train our lawyers. We say you're going to turn the juror off, or from you, or like you said, you're going to just turn him off, and they're going to go, oh, it must not be that important. He's not listening to this guy, so I should.
Right. Yeah. It's funny to hear those corollaries, man. Nick, I could talk to you all day about this, man. Like I said, I don't get to talk to people that are doing what you're doing very often. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me and giving me some time today and giving me a little insight into the criminal. I know you're doing PI too, but giving that insight into kind of the criminal defense trial law side of things is great. Love kind of getting that different perspective. So really appreciate you coming in and giving me some time.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let people know out there, because we got people listening to us all over the country.
Yeah.
Let people know out there how they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, if they happen to need any help.
Yeah. Passalacqua and Associates. Like I said, we're in the geographic center of New York State, but we cover most of the state itself. You can find us at cnytriallaw.com or facebook.com/cnytriallaw. And we're all over the other social medias. So check us out.
Absolutely, man. We'll make sure people do it, and we're going to tag you in the firm and everything when we put everything out. I mean, it's out there now, but appreciate you again, Nick, for coming on and giving me some time. Those of you who are watching our live stream today, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you're watching the recorded version on YouTube or listening on Apple or Spotify, we appreciate you guys doing that as well. We really appreciate it when you leave us a good review or leave us a thumbs up or a like or a star or all those things. Those are all super helpful for us to get the word out about the show and to get people like Nick out here in front of more people to kind of see what they're doing and how they're helping people out. So we appreciate you, the audience, for tuning in with us as well. I'm back here in 25 minutes with my last podcast of the day. So I'll be back in about 25 minutes. Nick, thank you again so much. Have a great weekend. And those of you who are watching right now, I hope you guys have a great weekend, but I'll be back here shortly. And we'll be back again more next week as well with more episodes of Partnership for Profit. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.